What's up, everybody? We're back. This is Digging Deep, and we've got a fight announcement. We've got March 27th, UFC 260, headlined by Stipe Miocic and Francis Ngannou. But the co-main event just announced is Alexander the Great Volkanovski, the featherweight champion, versus Brian T-City Ortega for the title, the 145-pound strap. This is an amazing matchup. Sick announcement. I'm super excited. I'm Joe Gravel. That's Sergio Pinheiro. How's it going, Sergio?
It's going well, man. I just like you, when this fight was announced, as a fan of both gentlemen, I was through the roof. I couldn't wait for this fight to be booked. Then Max Holloway had his performance, and I don't know what to think anymore, but I love this fight, regardless of whether or not I think Max should be next. I love this matchup. I think it's great. I think T-City is unbelievable. He's improved leaps and bounds, and obviously Alexander Volkanovski has been doing his thing with back-to-back wins over Max Holloway.
Yeah, I agree, man. And this is an incredible co-main event. Also, I'd like to mention that Stipe Miocic versus Francis Ngannou 2 is not finalized yet. This is supposed to be the co-main event with Volkanovski and Ortega, but if that heavyweight main event did fall through, something you've said to me on the side off camera, which is a great point, I would be totally fine with it because this fight could carry a pay-per-view all day, can take my money every day of the week. Something else we got to get to is the tail of the tape. Let's throw that up. Hell yeah. So we got Alexander Volkanovski, 22-1, 32 years of age, 5'6", 145 pounds, 71.5 inches in reach. Brian Ortega, he's 15-1, 29 years old, a little bit younger than the champion, 5'8", a little bit taller, as it usually is with Volkanovski being 5'6", 145 pounds, and he has a 69-inch reach. So Ortega doesn't have a reach advantage in this fight, being the taller man. Interesting.
Yeah, it's very unusual. Usually the taller man has the reach advantage. There are some exceptions to that, obviously, but that is a good point there, and one that stands out.
Yeah, I noticed that. I was like, wow, this is weird, but such is the case. Holloway, he's 5'11", and I think he has a 69-inch reach, so that's weird, and he's a great striker, so reach isn't everything, but it is something. Another thing I think is an interesting stat with these two guys, Sergio, is they both have 9 fights in the UFC. Kind of crazy to think about.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it's funny because for whatever reason, I always viewed Volkanovski as a newer guy, and I don't know why. I always thought he was just recently in the UFC, but he's been kicking around and he's never lost in the UFC. So I don't know why I thought that.
I felt the same way. It really did feel like that. Here's another interesting stat we have for this fight. Brian T-City Ortega, he's got 7 finishes in the UFC. Volkanovski, he's got 3. Now, he does have what you could say is a pretty crazy schedule, 2 title defenses. He's gone 10 rounds with Holloway. He's done a lot, but you can tell that Volkanovski, he's got that Muay Thai-centric style. He likes to use that jab, that overhand, those leg kicks. But, he's fighting to a decision. He's a grinder. And then you've got Ortega, who I would say is more of a finisher.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's maybe not more recently, but early on in Ortega's career, I mean, no one wanted to grab the guy. I mean, you saw what he was doing to Cub Swanson. Like, it was ridiculous. I've never seen someone flail like that, let alone someone like Cub Swanson. So, yeah, early on in his career, Ortega was a killer. It kind of reminded me, and I know this is complete different comparison, but a guy like John Jones, he just kind of threw caution in the wind, didn't really care, wasn't worried about getting finished. He had that Hail Mary win over Clay Guida as well. Like, it was almost like he was fearless. And I think that Max Holloway loss really kind of made him rethink things, recalibrate, go back, make some huge changes. He's changed up his entire camp. He took a long layoff. And he came back, and what he did against Chan Sung Jung was unbelievable. So, I really do think that, like you said, those finishes were huge in Brian Ortega's career. But I think a lot of them were early days. Brian Ortega. I think we're going to see a new Brian Ortega going forward, and I don't think he's going to not finish guys. I just think he's going to maybe not be as risky in some of his moves.
Yeah, I agree. Those are great points, man. And he came back revitalized after that 2-year layoff. I mean, he looked fantastic against the Korean Zombie. He kept the fight standing, and he dismantled him. He picked him apart. So in this fight against Volkanovski, I could see Ortega kind of wanting to stay on the feet, wanting to put the pressure on Volkanovski and come forward, because if Alexander takes him down, I mean, then you're on the ground with Brian Ortega. He should have no fear of that. Someone I like to relate it to is Charles Oliveira 2.0. He's striking now. He's on the feet. He's throwing crosses. He's throwing body kicks. He's doing whatever he has to, because if you take Charles Oliveira down, I mean, now you're dealing with one of the best black belts who's ever graced the UFC in a jiu-jitsu grappling match. And as you know, Sergio, someone who does jiu-jitsu, it's not going to go well for you against Charles Oliveira, no matter how much time you spend on the mats in the gym. It's kind of the same way with Ortega. So this poses a completely different threat to Volkanovski, who all he wanted was a new opponent. I do believe he'll give Holloway the shot again if he wins this fight. And I do believe that Ortega will rematch Holloway if he wins this fight. But Volkanovski got his new opponent, and that's exciting as hell because this is a completely different stylistic matchup. Man, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I do. I like that. I like that point because I can understand Volkanovski's frustration. It's like, dude, I just fought the guy twice. You know, I beat him twice. You know, whether you think I beat him or not, I beat him twice. Like, on paper, I beat him twice. I did what I had to do. Who cares what those four judges or whatever it is? I don't care what they think. I won that fight. I got my hand raised. The belt's around my waist. Why are you going to give me the same guy? I want a new challenge. You know, I get it. I get that. I understand Max Holloway's frustration as well. That being said, he's got his new face, and you know, Brian Ortega is a man possessed right now. Is the best way I put it. When he got rid of his hair, I was like, this guy. He's not in it for modeling anymore. He's not in to be pretty boy. He's not there to, you know, to get the likes on social media. This guy's here. He's back. He's back with a vengeance. And man, the way he performed against Korean Zombie, who's arguably the best striker in the division. Obviously, you've got Calvin Kattar, Max Holloway in the discussion as well. But I've never seen anybody do to Korean Zombie what he did, and not even Jose Aldo when Jose Aldo fought him. Like, the way he dismantled him. That spinning elbow, it was beautiful. His performance was unbelievably flawless. And like you said earlier, what are you going to do when he hurts you? You know, if he catches you, what do? You can't take him down. You know, the cage is only so big. You're not going to be able to run away from him for very long. So I think Volkanovski's got a tough test ahead of him because there really is. You've got to stand in front of the guy. You don't get to hold him. You don't get to grapple him. You get to strike him. And Brian Ortega's gotten way better at it, and he's got way more tools now because he can grab you. And if he does, you know, it's a very dangerous game you're playing against one of the best grapplers in the UFC. In my opinion, the best American grappler in the UFC. So, you know, that's not a game you want to play. That being said, Volkanovski is also on a tear. To beat Max Holloway twice, you have to be next level. So he hasn't lost since, I think, his debut. So that says a lot about Volkanovski. He's never lost in the UFC. Though his wins, I think, are a little bit better than Brian Ortega's. He's got better resume, in my opinion. So it's going to be an interesting one. And sorry I rambled, man. I'll let you take over now.
No, that was a great point on what you said about Ortega. What if he hurts you? Volkanovski was dropped twice in the Holloway fight, in the second fight. Once by a head kick, and then later on down the road, I believe. But the head kick one is the one that's more interesting because in situations like that, if you're hurt against Ortega, man, if you shoot a desperation shot, you might be shooting right into a guillotine. You might be looking up at the ceiling in a couple minutes, you know? So that's extremely interesting to me. And I really can't wait for this fight. I'm super excited about it. Like you said, shaved head Ortega. He's right there with fifth round Robbie Lawler, C-level Cain Velasquez, no spar Holloway. I mean, if he comes shaved head Ortega, man, we're in for a real treat because Volkanovski is one of the toughest SOBs to ever grace the octagon. And like I said, Ortega's, you know, like we said, one of the best grapplers, best submission artists. This is a great fight, man. Do you got anything else?
I have a question for you, actually. So when you look at the champions in each one of those divisions, male or female, I looked at them right before this call, and one thing I noticed was I think he's the most underappreciated champ we have. I strongly believe that. I mean, regardless of whether or not you thought he beat Max, no one else has done to Max what he has, other than Poirier when he went up a division. I've never seen Max like that, and I've never seen Max lose to the same guy twice. So I think he's the most underappreciated champ. Do you agree?
I do agree. And when you talked about his career trajectory, and when you talked about how him and Ortega seemed at their points in their career, which one seemed to be around longer than the other or whatever, I thought about that. Like the way the UFC marketed him on his come up, it was tough, man. I mean, I've seen all of Volkanovski's fights, but much of which was going back on Fight Pass and this and that. You you kind of missed his career if you weren't really a hardcore Volkanovski fan. And I know they're out there. I see them all the time on MMA Twitter. I know he's got a huge following. He's a dominant champion though, and he's good, man. So yeah, I definitely agree with that. He's a little underrated, and yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I saw that and I was like, why am I not giving him the credit he deserves? Because he deserves it. And for whatever reason, we're glossing over that. We're like, oh, Max Holloway's the best. Max Holloway's the best. And I'm not trying to say he's not, but Volkanovski gave him 2 wars. So, he's right there with him. And I think these 3 featherweights, Brian Ortega, Max Holloway, and Volkanovski, I wouldn't be surprised if we see these 3 guys fighting each other for 3, 4, 5, 6 years, just over and over again.
Just an onslaught between these 3 at the top.
I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be surprised at all.
For real, man. They're so evenly matched. But like you said, the champion is good. Like, no one can take that away from him. I said dominant a moment ago. I didn't mean dominant as much as I mean, like, he is the champion. He is good. He deserves every bit of it. I don't want any Volkanovski slander. He doesn't belong up there. Exactly, man. I'm 100% with you. But he's a little underappreciated. I agree.
Yeah. It's weird. It's funny because I've never noticed that. I've been like, yeah, of course, Volkanovski's great, but that's not the extent of it.
Yeah.
But I've always just been like, yeah, he's great. But what about Daniel Cormier? What about John Jones? What about Max Holloway? What about Alexander Volkanovski? I mean, the guy is a freak. He's never lost in the UFC. He beat Jose Aldo, Chad Mendes, Max Holloway twice. I think it's time he gets the credit he deserves.
And he's got power, man. He used to be a heavyweight in size. I mean, he's got real power, and he's got the speed of a 145er. I mean, this guy's the total package. But we're going over the time limit, Sergio. This was great. Guys, we'll be back. We're going to send it. We're going to keep making these. Keep tuning in. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. That's Sergio Pinheiro for FighterPath.com. I'm Joe Gravel. It was nice talking to you guys. Peace.